Hello and welcome to Cooking with Unity Virtual Recipes. I'm your host, Max Moreau, and today we're going to be exploring the virtual reality toolkit and setting up a basic, just the functionality of a Polaroid-style camera. For those of you who are not old enough to know what a Polaroid-style camera is, Polaroid camera is a camera that takes a picture of something and then prints out that picture. In the old days, they used basically developer fluid that was put into the pictures themselves, and they would just self-develop. They would just take the picture like a normal piece of film, and then the film would develop itself, as opposed to taking it to a place, which made them very convenient at the time when, you know, none of the computer stuff was around. But all the computer stuff is around now, and no one probably knows what they are. But basically, what we're talking about is making virtual physical pictures out of what we see in a scene. So to start with this, we're going to want to look at some of the examples in the VRTK. So Virtual Reality Toolkit has been improving constantly, and every time I look at it, it's better. And there is no exception this time as well. Like it's way better than the last time I used it. And there's just a huge number of examples that you can go through. If you just download this project, you're already set up for Oculus and Vive. So just download the project, play around with it. Like, check out these examples, and you'll get some really cool stuff. What we're going to be using, what we're going to be using primarily on this one is in the, where is it? All right, I'm going to have to just read through them because it's hard for me to actually read through when things aren't aligned horizontally. Grabbing and using snapping objects on grab. This is what we want. So this one shows examples of objects that snap to a particular orientation when you grab them. And so I'm going to hit play real quick so you can see this in action. So in this example, we have a variety of objects that are designed to be in a specific orientation when you grab them. So like, no matter how I grab this item, it grabs as a sword. No matter how I grab this item, it grabs as a tube. No matter how I grab this item, it grabs as a gun and points in the right direction. So we're going to probably use this gun here as our basis. Is this gun the same? I don't know what's different between these two guns. But yeah. So before I go further though, let's talk about what makes VR cool here. So everything in here originally was very well aligned and stuff, just placed in the scene, obviously. But if you were making a game, and you wanted to just change things to look a little bit more natural, in VR you can just grab things and place them in the ways that you want to place them that might actually be difficult to set up in an editor. And then, like, even if you don't have any code, well, I mean, not any code, like, obviously we've got gripping code that came with VR2K, but even if you don't make any of your own code, we can literally just go... How do I unmaximize this? There we go. We can easily just go here, go to our example world objects, just copy it, stop playing, and then just paste. And then if we get rid of the old example world objects, when we hit play right now, look, everything's the way that we set it up. Now, imagine how long that would have taken if you were setting it up using Unity. Like, it was effortlessly for me to create a pile of garbage here. So, and that was like even if we don't make any cool editor stuff, which we're going to make some really cool editor stuff, but even if we didn't make any, VR is already useful for placement. So I'm going to take a short break just to make sure that things are broadcasting if you haven't been having major problems. Yeah, talking about film-based photography makes people feel old, definitely. And I am old. All right. Oh no, offline again. Really? Back? Okay, well, something got lost. Anyway, we're just going to keep running it. As I said, I'm recording locally as well, so if there are major problems, we should be okay. So what we got going on? What does it say? It still looks good. So, let's take a look at this gun. So we're going to go in here. We're going to just pick one of these, whoops, example world objects. Oh yeah, that's right, I copied and pasted them somewhere else. So there's two guns here. I don't know what's actually different between them. I'm just going to take the one that's called Gun 1, and just for ease, I'm just going to make a prefab here, and then we're going to create a new scene. Well, actually, new scene is probably a bit much. Yeah, let's just do it in the scene so I have some basis for things. But we're just gonna temporarily take these example world objects and remove them. Go away. So, what are we doing? So we've got this gun thing. I'm just gonna bring it back in here, and I'm gonna rename it to not a gun. We're gonna call this a Polaroid. We're gonna call this a Polaroid-style camera. Oops, still has a thing like that. Here, I'm going to, what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this scene so that we don't mess up the examples for people. I'm just going to save the scene as, save scene as, we're just going to call it in assets right now. We're just going to call this Polaroid camera. All right. So, probably shouldn't have started with a camera because what are we going to take pictures of? But it'll still work. It'll be fine. And we'll try it in a different scene too once we get it working and see how everything works. So let's just go ahead and I'm just going to delete these things. Whatever. Delete. We'll just put the gun in the scene. Doesn't really have to be anywhere. And let's just hit play real quick. Because, as I said, I don't like to spend all that time with numbers when I could just find where I place this. Oh, it is already on the place anyway, but there. Now it's more convenient for me. Honestly, I should probably set things up so I can just grab them in front of me. I'm going to be running into things at some point here. So, whoops, unmaximize. And we will just, it doesn't matter, it was in a good position anyway. All right, so the actual work portion of things. So let's start with the basics. So we're going to need a screen that shows what's going to be the picture that we're taking. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to set up a render target. So we're going to need a render texture here. And we're just going to call this Polaroid texture. We may change this later to be more programmatic just because if we want to have multiple Polaroid cameras, we're going to have a separate texture for each of them and things like that. So there's considerations, but right now we're just going to get the basic setup here. So we've got this Polaroid texture. We're going to create a camera. So we need a camera on our Polaroid style camera. So let's go over here. We're going to create a new camera. Put this inside of our Polaroid style camera. Put it at reset the orientation. And yeah, so it's pointed the opposite direction that I would like there. So I don't know why they have these completely, or wait, it's local space, right? Yeah, that's local. All right, well, we're going to flip it around then. Because the camera is facing backwards right now, so we're just going to flip it around 180 degrees. And right now, is that right for how that camera should render? Tell. We'll play with it in a second. So let's create a, so we're going to need a screen for this thing. And so the screen is going to be just a quad right now. And so we're going to create a 3D object, no, 2D object. There we go, 3D object quad. And we're going to put this in our Polaroid style camera. And we're going to see which side it actually looks at. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and reset rotation, reset the whole thing. All right, so we're going to want this one reversed too. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this quad. Yeah, we'll just reverse it separately. 180. And it's way too big. So let's make it less than a meter. It's about the right size for a screen. I don't know. Let's just do 10 centimeters for right now. Leave the Z alone. And Z doesn't matter in this case. Just make sure it's not 0. That's really the key. So this isn't going to do anything just yet. So quad needs this texture on. So we're going to just drag this Polaroid texture. That automatically created this materials folder and this Polaroid texture folder. I'm just going to leave it there because we should have these things in folders anyway. And we're probably going to put these into a separate project folder eventually too. Polaroid-style camera, Polaroid texture. So now this quad is using that, and we're going to go to the camera here, and instead of rendering to the screen, we're going to render to the target texture. And if things go well, this will just work. Things don't always go well. Oh, it looks like it's already just working. Sweet. But the problem is it's through the handle here, but we're just going to fix that real quick. So let's make this quad a little bit further back. 1, 2, I don't know, somewhere like that. Let's see how that does. Up too far. But it is doing the thing that you expect it to be doing. So, yay. And see how that goes. All right. Looks like it's the right orientation. Not that, yeah, it could be the wrong orientation where everything would be always sideways, but yeah, so it's working. And yeah, and so this gun has you can shoot, evidently they're capsules, but you can shoot capsules out of the gun by default. And that's useful because we're going to be using the use function in that to take our pictures. So let's see real quick back to chat just to make sure that nothing's too crazy going on. All right, nothing new. Oh, stream health output low. Great. Is it working? Claims to be working. Oh, great. It's real choppy. All right, well, I'm glad I'm recording this separate. Maybe that's part of my problem, is the fact that it's streaming to me. I didn't even realize it was doing that. I really... This is annoying. Oh, well. Back to the project. Probably going to have to offline upload this, and that's okay. Because I'm recording it separately. Yay. Glad I decided to do that. So, back to what we're doing. So, we now have the Polaroid-style camera. We need to make it do a thing when we hit the trigger. Right now, the gun already does a thing when we hit the trigger, right? And so, basically, this gun script is what we're going to be modifying. And actually, we're going to be duplicating, basically. So I'm going to just go to edit script, and we're going to look at it real quick. So what this does is it does a override start using bullet. So start using, I think, is what is used to say that you're going to do something with the gun. And then this just calls fire bullet, which does this stuff down here. Now, we're going to make this a little bit more generic than this, actually. This is already pretty generic, but we're going to make something called a public class usable. And this usable is going to be just an object that sends a message every time that it's used. And, well, not send a message. We're going to use Unity's action system or event system. I don't know what it's called. We'll find it. And then that way we'll be able to just decouple it from code entirely, and you can just hook it into other scripts. And then we are going to use some more code to actually make our logic, but we're going to have it in a separate script. So let's go ahead and do that. where is this script actually? So we're going to look for VRTK interactable object. Okay, I'm just going to copy this whole thing, paste it into a new thing. Because I want to find out where the file is. So create new script. Call this VRTK usable. And then we're going to open this file, supposedly. And we are going to just take this whole thing and paste it in. And fix whatever problems that we've got going on here. We don't need this. Yeah. There we go. So we're not going to need this. I'm not going to need any of this stuff. We are not going to really need any of this stuff, nor are we going to need this stuff. I'm going to keep start just in case. And what we're going to do is, so this just means pass it on to any children. We're going to call this public class usable. Actually, VRTK. This is going to be based on VRTK interactable object, which is not resolving. Oh, because we're not using VRTK. There we go. So save. So VRTK usable. I guess since I probably shouldn't call it VRTK because it's associated with VRTK. I'm just going to call it that. It's fine. VRTK underscore usable. Let's try that. We'll find out that that's already probably used. So now instead of fire bullets, what we're going to just do is we're going to have a public. Oh yeah, we need to announce this first. Using Unity engine. Unity engine dot events, and then public Unity event. Yeah, so public Unity event test. I'm just going to make sure this works. Actually, we'll just call this event to trigger. Save. So if we go into Unity now and we go into Polaroid-style camera and we change, we're going to add VRTK usable to it. Maybe we are. VRTK usable, please. Okay, well, let me pull in there. Probably because I already have this script on here, so I'm just going to temporarily remove this and see how this goes if we add VRTK usable now. Script class cannot be found. Okay, so that's because I need to make this have a lower underscore in it to match the class name. And we're going to drag it in now. I'm going to go ahead and actually add. Come on. There we go. Move it up. I don't know why that breaks the instance, but all right, cool. VRTK usable. So drop anywhere, allow grab controllers, ignore controller, hold button to grab, stay grabbed on teleport, while drop, hold button to use. So events to trigger. So this is what we added right here. And the rest of it is the old whatever is the base stuff here. I probably should have kept the other script on here. I'm just going to undo real quick just to see what the state was. Went too far. There you go. Back to there. All right. So gun. I just want to see, is grabbable. Hold button to grab. Stay grabbed on teleport. Use hold button to use. Use only if grabbed. I actually put both of these on right now. Does it cause a problem? Okay, it does not cause a problem. It was just because my names were not right. Move up. Yeah, I know. We've broken the pre-grab instance like a bunch now. Okay, there we go. I just am going to duplicate down here. Touch open, both. Is grabbable. I actually don't want, I want hold button to grab because I like that. Stay grabbed on teleport, drop anywhere, undefined. Both Polaroid-style camera. So grab attach mechanic script. That is here. So it's good that we did this because we're going to need it. Alright, so secondary grab action. Don't know what that actually even does. And then finally, is usable. Hold button to use. I guess that's fine. Use only if grabbed. I guess we might want that. I'm going to leave that. That means that you can hit the button even when you're not holding the thing. And all we're going to do now is create an event that triggers something. Oh yeah, we need to actually show that it's doing something right. So we created the event, but we didn't actually use it. So we need to say event to trigger dot invoke. So this means that when we get here, do all the triggers that people have set up in the events to trigger. And let's go ahead and test this a little bit. I'm just going to create a debug log here. Debug.log. Log warning. Actually, just log is fine. Debug.log. Usable trigger. Let's go ahead and save this. Make sure that we get things that do the things that we're expecting to do. Looks like. All right. So, oh, it's still shooting things. Oh, that's because it has both scripts still. Did it say anything when I did those things, though? There's 2 audio listeners. We gotta fix that, too, so that we don't have all this spam. Let me do that real quick. That's because on our Polaroid-style cameras by default come with audio listeners. We don't need an audio listener on this thing. All right, and then let's go back to Polaroid-style camera. I don't know why this is called. Wait, where is that from? I don't know why this is here. I'm going to hit apply here so that we get something here. I'm going to also hit save scene so we get something. And just in case things go badly. Because at the end of the day, even if all the recording in the world breaks, if I have the project, I can at least share that. So let's remove this gun script. Whoops. Remove. No. Sorry, I'm not used to Windows. Remove component. And this doesn't have to be on by default, I guess. Let's see if we get a script when I hit the button. So, it's not shooting anymore. Good. And did it say it's doing a thing? Usable triggered. Good sign. All right. So, now we're going to make the thing that we're actually going to trigger, which is going to make a picture somehow. How are we going to do that? So, probably should have thought about this a little bit beforehand, shouldn't I have? So, pictures. So, we've got a texture, and we're going to copy out of that texture into another texture and create a material for that, and then spit out a So we don't need to create a material. We can have that already on whatever the camera thing. So we're going to duplicate this quad. I'm going to call this quad the screen. But we're going to create a prefab. Might as well have it inside the object. Part of the reason that they do this inside the object instantiation stuff is because if you make stuff completely self-contained in VR, it's really good because you're really just making tools, right? And you want to be able to just use any object that you create in any game that you have. You'll start to see this a lot more in games. You've probably already seen it if you're into VR, but games will sometimes reuse assets across games just because it's super easy to do it in VR and super useful to do so. So we're going to delete this bullet. We're going to duplicate this screen. Duplicate the screen. We're going to call this a picture. This picture we're going to do a little bit differently. We're going to create a different material. So the problem right now is, as I said, this isn't going to be totally self-contained because if you have two of these Polaroid-style cameras, they will potentially have problems because they're going to be fighting over the render texture. But we'll fix that on another episode. But we do need a new material here. Create material. We're going to call this the just picture material. And this will actually get re-instanced when we change the texture because we're not going to use shared material when we do it, so we can create multiple ones of these without too many troubles. So we're going to just put picture on here. And picture doesn't have a whole lot going on for it. It does not have a texture set. We're going to call this a night. Thank you for watching. Again, sorry, excuse the bumpiness while I'm getting my stuff set up and figured out. This I thought was going to be a good option to record here, but I guess it's not been as good as I thought it was going to be. So thank you guys very much, and I will see you later. Have a good one.